Since the appearance of PT back in 2014, we have witnessed an unprecedented rise in psychological horror game releases because indie developers saw that they had the capability to make something similar to PT or even scarier. Many of them succeeded in their mission and delivered games that are seriously impressive and unique in their own way. Games like Visage stood out because of their incredible visuals and deep stories, but only a few other titles managed to reach the same level of popularity. Other games, like Madison, were basically on the same level, but these types of experiences were usually sophisticated with a complex story and a relatively long playthrough. However, in the last 10 years, there was literally one game that simply felt different. It was simple, short, and straightforward, but extremely effective in making you terrified. It's a game that doesn't put you in a vast environment or give you various gameplay features, but when it comes to fear, it literally reaches your mind very, very fast. Without further hints, the game I'm talking about is none other than From the Darkness, and in my opinion, this is one of those games that I have never found something similar to since I played it back in 2021. In this video, I'm going to go through the main elements of the game with you and explain why it's so special, and why it has the reputation of being one of the scariest indie horror games ever. The first thing that gives you a clear hint that this experience will be creepy is the setting where the events take place. When the game starts, you find yourself in an old Russian apartment building from the Soviet era, and this is obviously an indication that you shouldn't expect a good time here. It's always chilling when games take you to places that belong to the past, especially when that past is known for its dark events. The building looks devastated, and you can notice this when you see the broken elevator, and that's why you need to keep going until you reach your destination. You're here because you need to go to your grandfather's apartment number 64 to get a photo album and leave. But the note on the door gives you a feeling that something is not right. It says, "Dear neighbors, if you don't stop making noise at night, we will call the police." It's not clear what this means, but it's not a cheerful sign anyway. Once you enter the apartment, you need to restore the electricity to turn the lights on. But as soon as you officially start exploring the flat, I swear, a chilling atmosphere begins to reach your mind without even understanding why. I don't want to call it music, but the tone in the background is unbelievably eerie and unsettling, and it kills you mentally with how calm it is. Considering how old the place is and how it belongs to the Soviet era, even the kitchen doesn't look like a safe place. The visual style is extremely suitable for a horror theme, and even the color of the environment gives off spooky vibes. The flickering lights also add to this uncanny climate, but don't think your problems start in the kitchen. You go to explore the dark living room, but after you turn the lights on, you see that it's a complete mess, as if a fight took place here. Beside the ominous music in the background, you also start to hear the wind, and it seriously works perfectly to stress you even more. There's a strange photo on the wall in front of the room that shows a man with a group of children, and it seems that the setting is an urban area. Keep this peculiar photo in mind because we'll go back to it later and I'll give you some theories about it. Afterwards, you go to check the deeper part of the apartment, and this is definitely the most mysterious and menacing, and the climate around it proves it. There's a room on the left that you can't enter because it's too dark, but the weird part is that approaching it alone triggers the atmosphere to become nightmarish. The bathroom also looks like crap, and I don't think anyone has cleaned it for years. And then, when you go to check the next room, The lamp explodes after you turn the light on, meaning that you'll never get to see any light in there. The other room is locked, and you need to find a key to open it. On the wall, there's a photo of an old lady carrying a baby, but it simply looks creepy on so many levels. Then you go back to the hallway, and for no apparent reason, the electricity goes out again. It doesn't matter how much I describe it to you with words, I swear the atmosphere during these moments is unexplainably chilling, as if you're in the apartment in real life. And the developer knew very well how to use the sound effects masterfully. This time, the room on the right is mysteriously open, but you can't turn the lights on because the switch is missing. You find a key on the table, but then, when you look behind you, you find that spooky room in front of you with terrifying breathing sounds. Nothing makes sense, but now you can use the key to open another area where you can find the light switch for that room. The lights keep flickering and turning off as if there's something influencing them, but we can't see anything. The design of the apartment looks so insane and genuine in a way that it makes you convinced that you should be scared for no reason. However, once you go to explore the room that you have the switch for, you'll regret that you can now turn the lights on. It might look like a cheap jump scare to you when you watch it like this, but when it happens to you while playing the game, it basically makes your heart skip 20 beats because it simply kills the calm atmosphere for a couple of seconds. The creepy doll is sitting on the bed, and next to it, there's a box with album written on it. But once you open it, you'll receive a sign that you need to get the heck out of this place. It's not clear who wants us to get out, but it's obvious that something is not right. You go to check the table, and you can actually get a family photo hidden in the book next to an old newspaper from the Soviet era with some news about the last Soviet leader, Gorbachev. But no matter where you look, that mysterious room keeps showing up in front of you, triggering your curiosity more and more. As you get closer, you hear a very annoying sound of heartbeats, but once you go to investigate the other parts, something turns the light switch mysteriously, and when you turn back, you see the TV working and showing disturbing random stuff, including that weird photo of the woman holding a baby. However, the lights go back as soon as you approach the TV. In other words, things are escalating very quickly, and it's becoming clearer that you're not alone in the apartment, but who's with you remains a mystery. Furthermore, if you focus on the broken TV, you'll see that it's basically showing a part of the flat with a weird book on the floor. This is strange because it seems like footage from a surveillance camera, even though the place looks too old for that. When you go to check, you see the book there. It doesn't make any sense, but you get yourself together and go near that room again. And when you zoom in a little bit, you can literally see glaring eyes staring at you. You can't see anything else due to the darkness, but it's becoming clear that something is inside. You pick up the book from the floor, and it turns out it's the album photo you needed to find, and now your mission is getting out. But this is much harder than you think. The glaring eyes suddenly disappear, and the lights start turning off one by one in a confusing way. Once you turn them back on, you'll discover a shocking discovery, which is the fact that someone closed the door and you cannot leave anymore. However, once you turn back, you will finally confirm that you're not alone here and that there's been someone watching you since the beginning. If you slow the motion a little bit, you'll see a huge figure looking at you before disappearing once you spot him. You then run to see where he went, but you find the door of that room closed, even though it was always open. There's only one side peephole, which means whoever inside can see you, while you can't see anything from your side. On top of that, we discover another stressful update, which is that you can now hide under the bed. And if you're a horror gamer, you know that's never a good sign. It means that something might hunt you very soon, and you need to be prepared to have quick reactions. And when I say very soon, I mean sooner than you think, because as you're still under the bed, someone opens the door of the other room, and the bell starts ringing before the lights go out. This insane situation literally leaves you terrified to stand up and go check what's happening, but you have to do it anyway. As usual, the lights go back randomly again and the door is covered with blood, but as you're trying to comprehend the nightmare you're living in, the infamous shift to run appears on the screen, giving you a hint that you're screwed. The atmosphere during these moments is absolute pain, because you feel like the events are happening fast after everything was calm a few minutes ago. You're hearing a weird sound of someone eating or chewing something in the nightmarish room, but you can't see anything clearly. So you decide to get closer and take a look, only to see a disturbing sight of a mysterious person covered in blood. The paranormal events then start to increase gradually, and you can even hear the light switch in the other room turning on and off on its own. You also now find out that there's a lock that you need to find a code for. But as you investigate the rooms again, the radio starts playing weird sounds, and then suddenly, the door behind you begins squeaking before a hand shows up and breaks the lamp. As you are hiding, you can hear footsteps outside, making it clear that someone left the other room and probably went somewhere inside the apartment. And this is another reason to get terrified, because now you don't even know where you can encounter that thing. When you open the door, you realize that the whole place is now shrouded in darkness. However, the cabinet has lights on, and eventually you can turn on the lights in the kitchen too. But while you do all of this, there's an extremely loud and annoying sound in the background, and you see the oven shaking in a weird way. You go to check it out, but the lights go out again. You literally can't even have 3 seconds of peace without something happening. When you finally check the oven, you find an item that you'll need to open that lock. You go to investigate the bathroom, but the lights go out when you reach it, and you can always hear the lamps breaking. When you put the item in the lock, you'll realize that you can get the code when you see the symbols in the room during complete darkness. As you do so, you hear movements outside, and you get a warning to hide under the bed, but you literally can't see anything. You stand still, hoping for everything to end, while your mind is dying from stress. This game simply knows very well how to mess with you without showing you any physical threat. It relies on making you fear something that might show up but never does. You hear footsteps from every side, but you don't know if they're near you or not. This is psychological hell in its ultimate form in horror gaming. However, if you go back a little bit and focus on the environment closely, you'll notice something creepy. The doll's eyes have been basically following your movements all along, wherever you go. Most people won't necessarily focus on this part, but it's actually unsettling once you discover it while playing the game. Anyway, after you open that lock, you'll get a flashlight, and it means that your next mission will be in complete darkness. You leave the room, and you find everything more nightmarish than it already was. You look on the right, and you find a dead body, confirming that this place has a brutal history and that things are much more serious than just paranormal events. This time, you can finally enter that ambiguous room and see what's in there. There's a chair in the middle, and random phrases and words written with blood are all over the wall. In the next part, you need to find multiple items, such as body parts, in order to finally leave this hell and get out of this apartment. But I'm not going to dive into the details in case some of you want to try the game yourselves. The real question now is, what made this game so insanely scary, and why, in my opinion, other indie horror games failed to emulate its formula? The answer is complex because there's something that makes this game haunting without even you understanding what's scaring you exactly. However, if we pay attention to the elements that the developer relied on, we'll see a clearer picture. The first element is the ambiguity of the story and the background of the place. The only thing we know is that the apartment is from the Soviet era and belongs to a grandfather, but what happened in this apartment and the identity of the grandfather remain obscure and left for interpretation. However, if we start connecting the dots and using our brains a little bit, the closest theory we can come up with is that the grandfather was probably not a very good person. The pictures and signs across the apartment seem like they're hiding secrets, and they're not really random. The photo that shows the grandfather standing in the middle of poor children might actually refer to a dark era where he might have been practicing harsh treatment towards them. There's also an interesting comment in a previous video we made about the game, and it provides important hints. The comment suggests that the grandfather did very bad things during the Soviet era, when horrors were common on many occasions. The comment also talks about how one of the pictures showcases a mass murder, and we're not sure if the flat is haunted by their ghosts or not. However, there's a confusing and important sign at the beginning of the game that I'm confident 99% of players ignored. There's a poster on the wall that talks about a missing person. The poster mentions that the person is 15 years old and has a height of 173 centimeters, which is pretty tall for such an age. It's also mentioned that he was wearing shorts and sneakers. It's pretty much obvious that the boy was abducted, but who did it is a question that only the apartment can answer. A notable theory is that the grandfather was a kidnapper and a serial killer who used to lure children to his place to either imprison them or kill them. The huge figure in the apartment might actually be the missing boy himself, and he's been imprisoned behind its doors for years, even after the old man's death. The boy might have suffered from starvation during his time alone in the place, and that's why he probably started eating parts of the bodies that were scattered, which belonged to other people that were killed before. There are also writings telling you that the person in the place is stronger in the dark and weaker in the light, and this might hint that the boy was kept in the dark for a long time to the point that he adapted to it and can't bear being in the light again. This might explain why he was turning off the lights behind you all the time and breaking the lamps in some occasions. Furthermore, the screwdriver in the cabinet is also evidence of the grandfather's gruesome past, because it contains stains of blood on it, which might mean that he used it to kill someone. The problem, however, is that we can't verify any of this, and this is what makes this game even more terrifying. As I said earlier, the mysterious nature of the story is simply a strong ingredient in the horror. The proof for this is that almost 90% of people who played the game agree that the first half is way scarier and tense than the second one. The reason for this is because the first half was all about mystery, atmosphere, and exploring a place you thought was normal. The quiet initial minutes of the playthrough were literally scarier than any type of monster you can face directly. The source of fear during this time was the unknown, and the possibility that someone was with you even though you're supposed to be alone. For some reason, the developer succeeded in taking advantage of this aspect in this game more than any other indie game I played in the last 10 years. The setting plays a role in this because the design of the Soviet building is eerie by default. Beside that, the small size of the space also intensified the horror, because the developer wanted us to feel claustrophobia, which is the fear of closed spaces. On top of it, the developer also used nyctophobia as another weapon in his horror campaign, and nyctophobia is the fear of darkness. Throughout the walkthrough, the lights go out frequently to make you aware that darkness might appear at any second. However, the dark becomes even more effective when you don't know what's happening because you can't see anything. The footsteps that we hear here in the darkness are designed to provoke your mind into believing that something is coming, but it never really does. The stress when you think the lights are finally back before they go out again also plays a role in keeping you unable to have any rest psychologically. All of this contributes to producing a horror game that only people who played it can understand how exceptional it is, because the atmosphere can only be felt and not explained. Before I finish the video, I need to mention that the ambiguity of the developer also played a role in making me interested in this game. The developer is called N4BA, and he's responsible for multiple amazing indie games, including a short, terrifying experience called Wrong Floor, which is basically an introduction to this game. We don't even know the identity of this developer, but he's obviously Russian because most of his games have Russian vibes and even real stories. Some rumors suggest that the developer might be the mysterious giant in the game, and he made the game while living in the dark. Others claim that he may be the grandfather himself, and he's using the game to lure more young people to kidnap them. Anyway, the last part was obviously nonsense from me, but I like to trigger some curiosity in your minds. Tell me in the comments what you think about this game and whether you have played it before or not. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to give it a like, and you can also become a member by pressing the join button or the link in the description. It's as cheap as $1, but it will help us produce more content and be more consistent. Tell me also if there's any other games similar to this one that you think I should make a video about and analyze. Anyway, enough for now, and see you very soon.